Hey everybody, it's me, SpeakMouthWords. Wow, what a coincidence I'd be talking on my own channel. Funny joke. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to probably want to ask is, where's Nobody Paying Attention December? The answer to that is it doesn't exist, so it can't really be anywhere. But there will be one for January, so hold on to your hats and horses and everything else you hold dear. The second thing that you're probably going to ask is, why is this video really long? And the answer to that is, it's an interview of me by the Futurology Podcast. It was a good interview. We talked about a lot of different things, and we also talked about Nobody Paying Attention in a little bit more detail. So if you're interested, check it out. I realize it's really long, but maybe you have some time to kill. Maybe you're procrastinating. Hey, do this instead of that thing you're meant to be doing. Good idea, huh? Okay, I also have an announcement to make. This is very important, so listen close. A day or so after this interview was recorded, the other co-host, who you don't hear, decided that he was going to step down from his position on the Futurology Podcast. What has been decided is that I will take his stead. So from now on, I will be a co-host of the Futurology Podcast. Another thing that has been decided is that the Futurology Podcast will now be based on this channel, on SpeakMouthWords. So hopefully we're going to get some incredibly short form content to you in the form of Nobody Paying Attention, and some incredibly long form content to you in the form of the Futurology Podcast. And maybe I'm thinking I might invent some mid-form content, just because, different strokes for different folks. Okay, good. Just listen to the podcast maybe if you've got some time. It's pretty nice. And I will see you probably beginning of February, unless I decide to do something else in the meantime. Alright, bye.
So where in the world do we allow for crazy ideas to come about? Because if you're always trying to protect what you have, whether you're a large company or a government, then you're stuck with incremental progress. But if you really want breakthroughs, then you need to be thinking in outlandish ways.
Do you ever consider the possibility that technology is a life form in and of itself? Do you ever consider the possibility that we are somehow interlocked in some symbiotic relationship we are the worker bees creating this new life form?
We're going to see a huge change in the car. And again, it's going to come pretty fast, by 10 years, I think.
And a kid in Africa today with a smartphone has access to more information than the President of the United States did 15 years ago.
That the cell phone in one's pocket today, the average smartphone, is 1,000,000 times cheaper, 1,000,000 times smaller, and 1,000 times more powerful than a supercomputer that was $60 million, half a building in size, 40 years ago. So what used to be half a building now fits in your pocket.
Which leads to an obvious conclusion. We are the gods now.
What's up, Futurology? This is Blinker Goes Left. Unfortunately, Doug won't be with us anymore. He has a new work schedule, and it's just taking up too much of his time. That being said, we had a guest this week. He goes by SpeakMouthWords. You'll know him from the videos he does on YouTube called Nobody's Paying Attention. This was a great interview, and that's kind of why I'm skipping the top 5 links, because we ran a little over. And I don't want to cut much of it out because we went a lot of places. Also, big ups to Bostonia and Sharky for their debate skills. That was entertaining. You guys rocked it. All right, so let's kick it off right now with the interview.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, with me now is Alex, and you guys might know him as SpeakMouthWords on YouTube. Alex, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me on.
You're kind of a celebrity for the futurology community. I don't know where I found your first episode, but I don't think it was there. I know that when I finally submitted it to the futurology community, you got quite a few upvotes, and from there you just kind of took off. How many do you know approximately? How many? Do you have any channel stats now?
So it's important to state that my YouTube channel that I run is not solely Nobody Paying Attention, which is the name of the show, but I would say that the the most viewed video, which is the second one I made, or perhaps the third one, it has 190,000 views.
Wow.
That was the one that managed to hit number 2 on the front page of Reddit. That was my big break. The channel itself has 4,500 subscribers. Any video I put out at all on any topic will get about 1,000 views, no matter what, really. And the futurology stuff, especially nobody paying attention, and I plan to have more stuff, will do well as well. And people seem to like nobody paying attention. They like it as a format. I've had people come to me and say that they show the show itself to professional clients and things like that because of the format itself and how much information is packed into a 45-second video.
Yeah, and I think that's why we love it as well, just because, we have the links that we can throw down, but you compress all of that, and it's good, I use it just when I'm, dinner table conversations, but did you ever think that the channel would blow up the way it did?
No, and the thing is, I was just sort of trundling along. I had about 400, 500-ish subscribers, and I was doing the normal stuff that sort of early 20-something, late teens do on YouTube, where they just sit down in front of a camera and just talk about things. Mm-hmm. And I'd always tried to make my channel kind of slightly intellectual, and I just abandoned the project, which was to do a video every day all throughout April. And a few days later, maybe a week later, everything sort of, the stars aligned, and I just watched the right influences and stuff. And I just thought, I'm just going to make this video that's going to be 45 seconds long, and it's going to make a small point about how great the present is, and the prospects for the future. I just put it out, and everybody just seemed to lap it up, and I lap it up's kind of derogatory, but they really liked it. And I thought I'd push it further, yeah.
Have you always been a futurist, I guess, or is it just technology in general that you enjoy?
It's a little bit of both. It's definitely a very recent phenomenon of mine to be interested in proper futurology, if you can call it that. Sort of getting really in depth into what will happen in the future and things like that. I've always been a sort of science-oriented person. Like I'm a physicist. I have a degree in physics. So yeah, yes. In other words, yes, kind of.
And even we, as a community, even the moderators disagree on a lot of topics. So there are a lot of different ways that you can go. There's the singularitarianism.
Yeah.
There's the whole transhumanist movement.
Transhumanist, yeah.
Do you subscribe to any of that, or do you think there will be a singularity event?
Yeah. There's lots of different camps in futurology, and there's some that I actually actively dislike, and there's some that I quietly support. The ones that I don't like, I'm not really a fan of the Venus Project, and I'm not really a fan of the Zeitgeist movement. But I am a quiet supporter of some kind of singularity. There's no good definition for the technological singularity. If you look it up, everybody has different definitions. Right. Werner Vinge, the guy who invented the concept, has a different definition to Ray Kurzweil, to Jason Silver, and all that, Nick Bostrom, everybody like that. They've all got different definitions. So right. I'd like to quietly subscribe to some kind of idea that there will come a point in acceleration of technology and innovation where you have to step up your own game as a human. I don't really see them separate. I see transhumanism and the singularity as connected.
Right. When I try to explain it, it's because it's hard to explain to somebody without just like pointing them to Wikipedia. But if you're at dinner and you're trying to explain, the one example I used recently was that, when you go and you upgrade your computer or you get a new cell phone, you know that in 2 years' time that cell phone is going to be junk. Yeah. Maybe not junk, but it's going to be completely outdated, and it's getting faster and faster. Pretty soon it's going to be a year, and then a few months, and then by the time you get home that day, your technology is going to be outdated. That's kind of how I explain it, but I also think that there's something with AI where AI exceeds human intelligence. That's how I've always looked at the singularity event.
Yeah, that's one of the other definitions, isn't it? When AI can improve upon AI,
Right.
then it's just gonna go away from itself. And I think it's important to sort of not intrinsically link the singularity to Ray Kurzweil. Like the idea of, I know that Ray Kurzweil's law of accelerating returns, which is that there's a Moore's law for everything technologically related, like everything's going to go up exponentially. The singularity is definitely connected to that idea, but it's not, they're not one and the same. Mm-hmm. There's definitely something with AI going on, and there's definitely other contributing factors.
Do you think we will see at a certain point that AI will surpass human intelligence? And I mean, by that I don't mean computing speeds, because we know that's going to happen, but I mean develop a consciousness and God, I don't know how to even put how to describe a consciousness, but do you think that day will come where it's not just talking into a Siri, but you're talking to a fully working robot in your house that you can send out for chores, or that can even do your calculus for you?
Yes, but I don't think it's going to come as soon as what a lot of people think it's going. Like the time frame, I think it's much smaller than what a lot of people think, because people seem to have this idea that if you slap together a neural network and you put it with enough computing capacity, out pops a consciousness, or out pops a human brain. And how incredibly anthropocentric is that we think that we're going to put these computing parts together and a human mind will pop out. Like, it could be anything. You could,
right.
Any sort of, and I'm a big sort of advocate of embedded consciousness, which is that we develop because of our computer, our brain, existing in our body. And there is a sort of movement for this in academic fields, and that it really depends on what you're in. So I think we'll only really see something human-like. If you're trying to replicate humans, this isn't trying to be better than them. But if you're trying to replicate them, you're going to have to put it in some kind of humanoid body. But improvements, being better, right, it's all a matter of the metric that you use. Like, I think my cell phone's smarter than me. Like, it can do stuff so much faster.
Yeah. Like, for example, we had Ben Goertzel did an AMA, and one of the questions I asked him was, because a lot of the AI guys, it boils down to budget. They think with enough programmers and enough hardware, they can get there. And he was saying that with an unlimited budget, they could develop an AGI, artificial general intelligence, within the next 10 years. How feasible is that? And then again, what is general intelligence? Is that consciousness? Because I can go to Cleverbot right now and ask it if it's conscious, and it'll tell me yes, but we know it's not conscious. So yeah, something has to happen there, and I think that's why Kurzweil has gotten some negative publicity lately. But I also think that's because people have seen that these articles that are a bit negative towards Kurzweil, they're going viral, and I think that people in the science community are seeing that, and they're trying to kind of piggyback off of it. Do you know what I mean? For a little bit of their own. Because I've seen it, and the more I look at it, the more it just looks like they're trying to slander him to get their name out there a little bit. And hey, you got to do what you got to do, but you don't have to do it that way. Like Kurzweil never said he was, doesn't have a biology degree, but he also said that we might not have to go that way to develop a consciousness. Maybe it'll develop itself. We don't know. But do you kind of get that feeling too, that within the science community that scholars are seeing it's an easy way to piggyback off of his accomplishments?
Yeah, it's a phenomenon that you see in any journalism, let alone academic journalism, that you can, if you do a trash article that just makes fun of someone or criticizes someone in a heavy-handed fashion, you're going to get their followers come after you, and you're going to be subject to the all publicity is good publicity effect.
Right.
Your name will be out there. I mean, not to get too lowbrow, but a lot of people know who Perez Hilton is, and he's just a gossip columnist, and he sort of just he started out just by insulting celebrities, and I think that's a very good example of, if you trash people, you're going to get your name out there if you do it fervently enough. I mean, the website Gawker, very famous recently in a number of cases just for trashing people, no matter what the case is. Yeah.
They actually got that. There was a big controversy, and this isn't really about futurology or anything, but they got. You heard about that, right? His name was Violent Acres.
Adrian Chen? Oh, Violent Acres, yeah.
Yeah, he closed his Reddit account and all that. He was in charge of I can't even name some of them. I want to say
all the rude parts of Reddit.
Right,
all the rude parts.
Yeah, but still, it was legal, right? I mean, and he was also. I guess I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. I started a not safe for work related Reddit probably 3 years ago, and now it's probably one of the top 5. It's not NSFW_GIF. It's the easiest thing you could think of. I was like, I want a place to bookmark these, and this guy came and helped out, and I didn't even ask him to. He was just like helping me do all these things. So the only interaction I had with this guy was him helping out. And yeah, on one hand he was posting dead babies, but on the other hand he was helping people. And then Gawker just Chen, you mentioned his name, just completely, ousted him. And I don't know, I think that kind of ruined him. It kind of takes us into a whole privacy discussion there, because that's against the TOS. But
yeah, well, look, no matter what you think of Violent Acres, the very fact that I know Adrian Chen's name is a testament to what we were talking about before, where trashing people, and especially famous people, it doesn't have to be just some Reddit person, but trashing, say take what we're talking about before with Ray Kurzweil.
Right.
I don't know any people that trash Ray Kurzweil's name because I don't really follow Kurzweil stuff, but I'm sure there are people, followers of the sort of Singularity University and Kurzweil stuff and that stuff with Google that I'm probably sure you've already talked about. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, for me, there's 2 questions that I'm getting to, and remind me to come back to Venus Project, because some of it might be justified there, and that's why I kind of want to ask you what you don't like about Venus Project. But another thing is, look at all the good that Kurzweil's done. I mean, he's helped, he's developed applications to help blind people read, a number of patents, and he's out there trying to make the world a better place. So when I see people doing this, I say to myself, what have you done? If you haven't done anything positive for humanity like this guy is trying to do, then really shut up and focus on that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if they are actually looking at it from a scientific perspective, actually I don't think the variables line up like you about the Venus Project. I'd love to know, because for me it looks like an interesting concept, and for people who don't know what it is, do you kind of want to give us a brief rundown?
It's right. Yeah, the Venus Project. It's a variant of classical anarchism, which imbues itself with transhumanism. And I think mainly my dislike of it stems from its disrespect for property rights. They seems to think that once you've got this super intelligent AI, then it'll take care of you in a very sort of, not really a patriarchal way, sort of a way that kind of coddles you as a human. I'm a big supporter in humanity. I I really like humans. I think they're pretty rad. So to have this idea of a super intelligence looking after you, I think really undermines humans. Like, I would rather that we take to bring up Kurzweil again, but he talks about man merging with machine. I'd rather that was an approach than to put this central thing in. And another thing that I don't like about it is its adherents they do bang on about it a lot, don't they? I mean, it's got a lot of connections with classical futurology and things like that, and they seem to sort of co-opt futurology and link it to this idea that's also inherently political. And yeah,
isn't it from the YouTube stuff I saw, isn't it the whole utopian society and resource-based community?
Yeah, they do away with money. That's one of some of its other biggest things. Right,
and I mean, I want to say that in a way that makes sense, because it costs us 1.5 cents to make 1 penny. I mean, why are we wasting resources to make money when we can just use the resources? So stuff like that kind of makes sense, but I don't know if we're quite there yet. Like, here's a pile of dirt for some food. I don't think we can do that yet. As humans, we need some type of currency, but it kind of makes sense to me.
But yeah, I'm not going to. Would just like to claim that for anyone that's going to do a giant rebuttal on what I just said and post it online, I am in no way educated enough in macroeconomics or microeconomics to make a full, proper examination of the Venus Project. But right. You have a lot of people going on about it and saying it's the solution for all the world's problems and things like that. And if you want to scuttle off to a corner and make a Venus project somewhere and live in harmony with your supercomputer, feel free. Just don't drag me into it. I'd like to keep my property rights, and I'd like to make some decisions for myself, and I like the idea of transferable wealth in the form of money and liquidity. But yeah, that's all I have to say on futurology. I'm on Venus Project.
I mean, what's the point if you can't be a baller, right? If you can't have those rims. But
exactly.
One thing we asked during our AMAs, and I know I get asked the question a lot. I myself have asked the question. I've asked Ben Goertzel, I've asked Jason Silva, but for someone who isn't like a scientist, a mathematician, or a programmer, is there anything that just someone who is a fan of the futurology movement, what can they do to kind of help move it along?
I'm going to give the same answer that Aubrey de Grey gives, which is publicity.
Yep.
Do compete with me. Hey, how about that? I'd like another futurology show. I got so mad when SourceFed, do you know the channel SourceFed? When they started covering a lot more future-based stuff and technology things, I was like, oh, they're ripping me off, and I really upped my game on the next one. So I'd like some competition. I think
good.
that what you've talked about when it comes to dinner table discussion, hey, get your dinner table discussion down. Like, work out the best ways of convincing people, and maybe get other people on board. And the best people who really push things forward are the ones who can get other people on board. Like, do you think that Bill Gates understands everything that goes on at Microsoft? No, but
right.
he can get the right people together.
Yeah, and one of my talking points that I also use sometimes is whether you're upvoting links on Reddit or you're sharing stuff on your Facebook wall. I mean, you may share something about space travel or engineering that your 12-year-old nephew is going to see, and that article could spawn a whole number of questions in his head and take him on a completely different path. So for me, I just tell people, get it out there, talk about it. Social media and the internet is going to change. It's already changing the way we do things, the way changes are happening. I mean, people from Europe and America can exchange information at mega speeds now, which could never have been done before. I mean, 200 years ago, if we would have told people that they could take pictures and call people from a device, and if they wanted to get inside an exoskeleton and fly across the Atlantic Ocean, they would laugh at you. So,
here's another thing that I'd like to see, that I think people can do to help. We see a lot of these discussions happening, and the two main languages that they're happening in are English and Russian. You've got the 2045 movement in Russia that I think is very impressive. And they're a political movement. I mean, I think they're more future thinking than the Pirate Party. And we're seeing this happening in English and Russian. If you are bilingual, please start a futurology community in a language that's not English. Try and build community building. It's one of the ways that I'm going to go with my channel soon, not to other languages, but community building. Like I'd like to see a community show in having discussion within the YouTube comments and with me interacting with them. So if you can build a community of any form, even if it's just even if you just go on Reddit and do futurology in Greek, and you can get Greek people to discuss about futurology, or futurology in Finnish or whatever. Start other language discussions, because those people, these ideas, that they're so infectious, and I think if they can stem there and ride out change, so that we can communicate with people whose first language is in another language just through Google Translate or whatever translation thing comes along, then there's going to be a great spread of ideas, and we need more people engaged in the discussion. And I think it's important not to just limit it to the English language and Russian.
Yeah, I never thought about that. That's actually an excellent idea. Do you think that the rate of change and the amount of people that are interested in science is changing more recently, or do you think that's just because maybe I'm seeing it more because I'm more interested in it as well?
I think there's a bit, like, I'm going to say it again, there's a bit of both. Mm-hmm. I think the society that we're living in demands a lot more technological know-how in terms of doing things. I think the industry is a lot more STEM-based, but please, don't not do what you love just because it's a science thing. If you love sociology, if you love history, don't do a STEM thing just because of the way society is going. Right. You'll find a lot of people in the futurist movement, futurology. They love their sci-fi. If you want to write sci-fi, please write sci-fi. It's very inspiring. Yeah. I think the change, the rate of change, the way things are going, there are more people going towards. To answer your question,
the reason I ask is because you've probably seen that Neil deGrasse Tyson video of the We Stop Dreaming, how back in the 60s and 70s we were, as a whole, we were innovating a lot more, and that's because we were going to the moon. We even if we didn't want to, we had to innovate, and his whole spiel on that was that once we stopped going to the moon, that's kind of when we fizzled out, and things kind of stopped happening at the pace they were. But I was thinking about that the other day, and now it's kind of, instead of the government who's pushing it, it's more the people. People are getting excited about this. You can make your own circuit boards now. We have private companies that are shooting rockets into space, and I think the changes that were happening then in the 60s, 70s, even early 80s, it's starting to speed up again, and we're starting to see innovation. But it's not from the government. It's from the general public who's interested in it. And I've wondered, is that just because I'm more interested and I'm paying more attention, or is there really some sort of a snowball effect going on? So, yeah, I'm glad you see that too. What is there any type of technology or any type of event that you're the most interested in? Space travel, nanotech, or...
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Peter Diamandis. I like the things he has to say that aren't very traditional futurology. Like, I'm a big fan of... Can I start this question again? What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Peter Diamandis and what he has to say. I don't really like to sort of be sort of nanotechnology or things like that. I love this idea that the global discussion and where we are is only a fraction. I mean, it's not a small fraction. I mean, a lot of people are online, but that there's a whole half of the world's population who aren't being engaged in this global discussion and don't have access to the full power of having all of human knowledge at your fingertips. I think when those people come online, that's going to be fantastic. I will very much look forward to having this discussion with people with entirely different world outlooks, and entirely different views of where they think things should go. That's what I'm most excited about.
So, besides just getting a smartphone in every African kid's hand, also getting them in living conditions that they can actually have a normal life. They don't have to worry about where their next meal is going to be. And I think Bill Gates is also working on projects where they can 3D print homes and actually create cheap homes, but nice homes that these people can live in. And yeah, we do have to get them engaged, because right now we have... Do we even know how many people have access to the internet right now?
I'm going to be completely wrong on this, but the number going around in my head is 3 billion out of 7 billion.
Okay.
Like there's as many people again potential to come online that currently aren't, and that's just access. I mean, think of how many people use it regularly. It's probably a much smaller fraction.
Right. So that kind of brings me into kind of our final discussion point, and that is, for me, futurists and futurologists are kind of the optimists of the world. Like, we look at things and issues and how to make it better. And we did a debate versus Collapse a couple weeks ago, and they kind of have a different outlook. They don't think it's going to be AI. They think we're going to run out of resources a lot sooner than later. And were you? I know that I sent you the discussion. What did you think of that? Like their whole outlook. I mean, is it warranted?
Collapse's outlook. Yeah. It's so... There's a lot of ways that the future could go. You're talking to a man who doesn't trust 5-day weather forecasts. So to talk about having one set definite path that we think the future is going to take is a folly. Like it's not a feasible thing to do. And if there are a group of people out there who think that everything is going to go downhill, then I find that I don't really have... I don't want to... Yeah, it's not that I don't not have a problem with them thinking it. It's that it is a legitimate standpoint that you could take, that it's going to go downhill, and you can make your arguments, and they can be persuasive at times.
Right.
But on balance,
I think that's what scared me the most. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think on balance, I disagree with them, but I do think they have a couple of interesting points to make. Definitely.
Right. Like when I first saw that we were going to have this debate, I went over and I one of the first comments I saw was just some guy, and it just screamed that he was driving a pickup truck and shooting a gun out the window, because he was like, "You futurologists don't understand. You get your resources and get a piece of land, and you ain't taking my guns, and we don't like Obama. And I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. Like, we're going up against dum-dums. But then I saw that was really just a small fraction of their community, and a lot of those people are well-spoken and rattling off stuff that I went and cross-referenced and did have, their sources were real. So from there, this might sound kind of like hippy-dippy, but I was a little bit frightened to take part in the debate, and more so that I didn't want to get my feelings hurt. Like, what if I'm living in the lie? So I'm real happy with the way I believe it was Encharky and trying to find the guys who took place. Anyway, big props to those guys. Did you feel that? Were there any points that made you scratch your head at all?
Yes, on both sides.
Okay.
On the collapse side, I thought that their statistics on overpopulation were intriguing. I don't have as much of an issue with overpopulation as most, average Joe would. A lot of people hear it and they think, oh no, overpopulation, we are all doomed. And their stuff on oil was interesting. It's stuff that I've come across before, and I have my own personal rebuttals for in my head. I think on the futurology side, I'm glad they didn't try to argue what they were actually meant to be arguing. The side on the futurology side was meant to be something about planetary civilization. They never once touched that. And I thought that futurology's references, though greater in number by a long way than Collapse's references, they were a little bit pop sci. I mean, they referenced Jason Silver. Mm-hmm. Jason Silver's he's a mouthpiece. He's a router. Like, arguments go into him that he collects and they come out again. Jason, it's like referencing me. Why would you reference me?
I do it all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, in an academic context.
Right.
I'd say, they referenced Jason Silver, they referenced Peter Diamandis, they referenced Ray Kerr as well. I mean, these are all just sort of big names. It's like saying I'm into metal, but I only listen to Metallica and Anthrax.
Right.
when there's so much more bubbling underneath. I think if I were to be truly impressed by Futurology's performance, I would have quite liked to have seen them reference people I'd never heard of. Right. I don't know if that's an odd standpoint to take, but yeah.
It makes sense because, I mean, we do need those type of celebrity figures, though, and we do need names that everybody can, like if I see Ray Kurzweil said, I'm probably going to look at that more than if Joe Blow said.
Yeah.
So anyway, big props to Ancharky and Boston.
Yeah, they did a good job. They did a better job than Collapse did.
Yeah, and Collapse, I'm glad that there's a community like Collapse because it does keep you sharp. You don't want everybody to think it's going to be daisies, and it's good it's good to have that skeptic and sometimes cynical outlook because some of the best inventions were made by proving people wrong.
Yeah. Special relativity came out because they were trying to they were trying to came out from proving people wrong. So yeah, right. I would like to see more stuff from Collapse on our Futurology. I think there is a place in our community for negative stories. I think we get far too much happy days on Futurology.
Right, but at the same time, I think Collapse is there, and I think a lot of people do have a shotgun in their hand and a thing of moonshine in the other, but for the most part, I think that Reddit is more educated than the rest of like a Collapse community, and I think that they don't really want that to happen. Because there are people, like we have a show here called Doomsday Preppers, and they spent they spend their life savings to make these bunkers in their yards, or to just, they're learning second languages just in case they get raided and they need to communicate with their spouse. It's crazy what people will go through. So if you tell someone like that who's dumped their entire life savings into end of the world scenarios, they're going to be a little bummed out. I think there's some people who really want a collapse to happen, but
at the same time, though, I think that futurology, it as a community, does get involved a bit too much in the glamour of the someday. Right. You know, it's definitely important for collapse to be there to bring us down from floating a foot above the earth. You know, right. just bring you back down to the end and go, hey, look, listen, you need to think about some other things. And I think that's where it's kind of some of the approach that I take in my show is important, because it's important to concentrate, I think, a bit more on the present than on the future. Like, the present is a very good indicator of the future, rather than jumping from thing to thing to thing. Like, people talk about some far-off esoteric idea of uploading your mind, when the steps in between aren't there yet. This is going to sound like an odd argument when in a few seconds, but you know what's so good about the Hobbit movie? Right. Is that at the end of it, they haven't succeeded. It's part one. It's a step.
Spoilers.
And that's what's intriguing about it. You've got to concentrate on the next step, and I think Collapse is there in a good way to try and get us to stop thinking about all your space tubes and all that, and bring you back and say, hey, look, be in the here and now and see what's happening next.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's why I do appreciate a community like that, because you kind of have to put your money where your mouth is. Like, okay, this is happening, but this is what we can do to stop that from happening. And I think it keeps both communities honest. And to go back to the especially the guy that was taking part in the debate, this for Collapse, I believe his name was Lars2133. I get the feeling that guy doesn't want a collapse to happen. I think he's there to debate, but overall, I don't think they want that. I think they want to. It's almost like the whole. If you go over to our atheism, I think a lot of those people just want that to see. I think a lot of those people just want to see God, and that's how I kind of feel. That they just want to be proved wrong. Like, prove us wrong. Prove that we don't need oil, and that's why we're good for each other. Okay, we can prove that. Like, for example, just last week, I live in San Diego. Our mayor said that by next year, I may be talking out of school, but he wants all municipal buildings to be solar powered. So that's a huge step. I mean, we're like the 8th largest city in the United States. So it's stuff like that that balances. Yeah, we're still relying on oil, but look at the steps we're taking to. Do you subscribe to that theory as well? Like, this is what we kind of have to do to prove that wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to oil, in Collapse's discussion, they talked about the concept of peak oil. I think one of the things that gets me most wound up in any sort of futurology things is when people don't have a full understanding of a product life cycle. You have this one of the dystopian concepts that people have about something happening in the future is it'll be a future only for the rich, or and I think the discussion with oil comes the same way. If oil is going to get scarcer, it's going to get more expensive. I mean, I've heard stories of oil prices in America. I'm sure you can attest how much they've gone up in the last things like that. And it's the price mechanism that's going to get people to come off oil. It's not. I mean, and in the same way, I was very impressed by Futurology's discussion on solar panels. I thought they did a good job with that. I thought they could have rebut the point that I don't know who it was, the IPCC or someone said that at the moment solar panels aren't growing at a fast enough rate to reach grid parity in time to stop catastrophic global warming or something like that. Mm-hmm. I would be willing to bet the coins that I'm currently playing with my fingers right now that the IPCC didn't take into account exponential change. They just took a linear, just drew a line on a graph.
Right. That's interesting you said that, because solar has kind of its own Moore's law, and people have been saying that Moore's law is slowing down and is gradually going to slow down and come to a halt. But to me, I don't think that will ever happen, because I think we push the boundaries on Moore's law. Right now we're still using silicon, but it seems like every day I'm hearing something different about nano. And I mean, once we hit nano, and this could just be me again, like looking at the flowers and not taking into account that Moore's law could slow down. But once we have nano, I think we're going to see Moore's law actually take a spike up.
Yeah, there's a talk. There are two things I want to say. There's firstly, there's a talk that Ray Kurzweil has done in which he shows what he really means by the exponential change, and he has this idea of paradigm shifts, and it's not a smooth curve upwards, but it's rather a kind of steps, and it kind of flattens out for a bit and then shoots up and then flattens and shoots up as the current technological paradigm reaches its limit, and there's a while where it kind of comes to a halt, and then someone goes, damn, spintronics, or yeah, memristas, here we go, and then it shoots up again. And then the second thing I wanted to say on solar is that there's a reason that I barely ever report solar on my show, is that I log into my sources and I do my research, and I find there are so many stories of solar innovations every month. And it's too difficult to choose one. I've only ever reported once on a solar technology story, and that was because there was a solar cell made entirely out of carbon, which I think is particularly impressive. So with these other solar stories, there's just so many. Every week, it seems, you get a story that's like, amazing solar breakthrough, can do this and this and this. I mean, I think even on the front page, if I remember correctly, of Futurology at the moment, there's something about stick-on solar panels or something like that. There's too much solar innovation going on. Please slow down. It's hard to keep track of.
Yeah. So, Alex, what's next for your channel? Are you
next to my channel.
Sorry, you're on a little vacation. I haven't told people, but you didn't come out with a video last month. This was kind of your holiday, right?
I was in the wrong place, both time-wise and space-wise. I was in the wrong place in space-time to make to make a video for January, and from December, sorry. And because I didn't make one from December, I kind of was second-guessing whether I wanted to continue doing the show in its current form or the show in general, and I'm still a bit on the fence. I'd love to keep doing Futurology stuff, but I think people do love Nobody Paying Attention a bit too much for me to stop. I think it just will be a month's gap, and I'll get back on it. Yeah. But it started, the thing is, the show started as me trying to make a point. That day, I'd just finished listening to both of Jason Silver's appearances on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I think I just watched a thing about there's a brilliant guy. He's an anarchist guy, but he loves to talk about the present, called Jeffrey Tucker. He's got a book called It's a Jetsons World, where he talks about how fantastic the present is. And he's one of my biggest influences. And so I just finished listening to him as well. I think also I heard that. Do you know that Louis C.K. bit about we're in a plane and no one's appreciating how fantastic this is? I think you talked about it already. It's so those three things came together, and on the Joe Rogan podcast, Jason Silver says, hey, you've got to make videos that are short. He talks about his philosophical shots of espresso. Well, those videos are 2 minutes long. I thought, how can I push that further? So the whole thing started with me trying to make a point that the future's happening and there's nobody paying attention. And it kind of evolved into a news show. It was me trying to make that point via a news show, and then it became that everybody kind of got the point. They got the gist. Yeah. And especially the recurring viewers, they just saw it as a news show. And I thought, do I really want to be a news show person? On my channel previously, I just talked about ideas. And I love being the sort of conveyor of ideas. But I think if it would have more of an impact if I took a little break, but I think people love it too much for me to not do it.
Yeah, I don't think you can take a break either.
I think definitely I'd love to take... Go on.
No, continue.
One thing that I would want to do is definitely expand the Futurology content on the channel. I keep making plans to do things like have longer videos or have proper discussions or interviews or whatever, and it never happens, but I really do want to see that happen in addition to nobody paying attention, and maybe other content as well. It's important to stress again, my channel isn't just nobody paying attention. There'll be other things on it.
Good. Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I don't want you to change anything about what the nobody paying attention, because just that has, I mean, it got me to, I've seen a lot of the stories you report on, not all of them, of course, and it's not that we didn't know that was going on, but it kind of, just for myself, has made me just sit back and look, and now when I'm outside and I see like a plane zipping through the sky and a helicopter and then a smart car and people on their cell phones, like this is a science fiction movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these people we're sending signals across the airwaves. We're jumping into these exoskeletons and flying across the sky. So people say we don't have flying cars. Yes, we do. They're called airplanes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just your channel, just nobody paying attention has really got me paying attention. Like, wow, we really are. This is a science fiction movie. It's not what we thought it would be, 30 years ago when Blade Runner came out, but it's close. And in ways, we've surpassed the technology in Blade Runner. So
yeah,
Go ahead. So my current university, I'm doing a master's degree at the moment, and there's my university's on a hill. And I come down the hill and I have a view of the whole of the town centre, of the town that I live in. And there is a building that rises up out of that town, and it looks like something out of a science fiction movie. And you get the planes flying overhead, you get this amazing building with this awesome sort of spike on it, and it kind of, sometimes I come back and I think, I'm going to film something right now about this, and then I get distracted by the internet. But yeah, we are definitely living through something fantastic, and it's great to sort of track the change. It's a privilege for me to track the change and to have so many people sort of not attributing the change to me, but for having me as the place they go to also help them track the change. A big shout out, if I can, to the FutureSeek blog. There's a blog called FutureSeek, and it's where I get most of my stories from. It just collates every single future-based story ever. It's a greater source than our Futurology, even if it doesn't sort of filter it. It's everything. It's a whole pile of links. Wow. And where is that based out of? Is it a community-driven site as well?
I think it's one guy. I've never really worked it out. There's a blog post every day on it, and it's just a whole list of links about cool things. I think it's just Google FutureSeek, all one word, and you'll find it. I can definitely recommend it.
And we'll put that in the description of the podcast as well. Alex, where can people find you if they want to tweet at you, or your Reddit name, if they want to contact you?
Yeah, everything is SpeakMouthWords. That's all one word, SpeakMouthWords, all together. YouTube.com/SpeakMouthWords. If you want to tweet at me, I'm also SpeakMouthWords on that. I spend a lot of time being silly on Tumblr, so if you want to just communicate me in a more personal way, Tumblr's all right for that. And Reddit, I'm SpeakMouthWords as well.
Excellent. Well, hopefully you'll come do this again with us. Doug actually got called into work last minute, but I know he was excited to talk to you, so please come on again and
I'd be happy
talk
to come
us.
again. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
No problem.